Headline: The US-Africa Summit ended yesterday. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your evening news from African Renaissance Television Services with your anchor, Yabsarandum Takka. Stay tuned. The US-Africa Summit ended on Thursday. President Joe Biden capped a summit of 50 African leaders by expressing his administration's deep commitment to Africa. He also urged the continent's leaders to respect the will of their people and says that he may come to visit. The summit concluded yesterday with the US promising $55 billion to Africa. Khalib Tensai has more details.
The US-Africa's Leaders Summit that took place from December 13 to 15 was held in Washington, D.C. The summit highlighted the United States' commitment to broadening and strengthening the partnership between the US and African countries, institutions, and their people. It was stated that African leadership and contributions are essential to addressing today's pressing challenges and achieving shared priorities across. On December 15, the US and African Union delegations released a vision statement outlining the contours of this strengthened partnership. In the US-Africa's Leaders Summit, President Biden and Vice President Harris announced new initiatives that will empower African institutions and citizens. The initiative reaffirmed US resolve to work collaboratively with African governments, businesses, and publics to strengthen people-to-people ties, ensure more inclusive and responsive global institutions, build a strong and sustainable global economy, foster new technology and innovation, strengthen health systems, and prepare for the next pandemic, tackle the food security and climate crisis, support democracy and human rights, and advance peace and security.
Secretary Blinken commends the Ethiopian government for working towards peace. Secretary Blinken welcomed the progress made with regard to the implementation of the permanent cessation of hostilities agreement reached between the federal government and Tigray authorities on 2nd of November in Pretoria, South Africa. Khalib Tensai has more details.
The meeting between Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken was the first time between the two. The State Department said that they discussed the urgent need for all Eritrean forces to leave Ethiopia, while the US urged access to the conflict areas by international human rights monitors. The said discussions took place on Tuesday in Washington, D.C. while the US-Africa Leaders Summit was in session. Secretary Blinken commended the steps taken by the Ethiopian government to improve humanitarian access and began restoration of essential services. While he commended the Ethiopian government, Secretary Blinken reminded the need for an accelerated implementation of the agreement and access to the conflict areas by international human rights associations.
A study shows that the fuel subsidy provided by the government is being used for contraband. A report from the study carried out by the Ethiopian Institution of the Ombudsman in regards to the procedure and execution of fuel subsidies stated that it is currently vulnerable to theft, contraband, and waste. Khalib Tensai has more details.
Chief Executive Ombudsman Dr. Ndale Haile stated the aim of the study was to check if the community is benefiting from the fuel subsidy and to find and to correct any shortcomings in the procedure and executions of the program. The fuel subsidy program is implemented to minimize government spending, to fight the contraband that happens in fuel imports, and to help the population with retail prices, according to Dr. Ndale. But the study found out there are a variety of issues with the implementation. In particular, it was noticed there are problems with theft and contraband around gas stations, which the Institute added it is benefiting the transportation service providers more than it is helping the population that is using their service. The Institute indicated lack of oversight from transport and trade offices as one of the reasons for the current shortcomings. It recommended the relevant authorities to work together and install control measures to better the outcome of the subsidy program.
On to news from abroad. North Korea tests solid fuel engine for ICBM. Kim Jong-un oversaw a test launch on Thursday in which high-thrust solid fuel engine that experts said would allow quicker and more mobile launch of ballistic missiles was tested. According to KCNA, the North Korean state news agency, expectations of another new type strategic weapon would be made in a short amount of time. The high-thrust solid fuel engine test is believed to be associated by the opinions of various experts. North Korea has upped its missile tests and launches this year ranging from short-distance missiles to ICBMs. In addition to that, it is expected that North Korea will carry out a nuclear test for the first time since 2017. These were the news we had for you for tonight. Once again, I'm Yabsarandum Takka from African Renaissance Television Services. Thank you for watching.